Perfect. Well, welcome back, everyone. Guess who's with us? It's Model 70 Steve. Pre-64 Model 70 Steve.
Yeah.
Well, thus far he has been doing really well on our shows because his rifles really shoot. Some of them are rehabbed rifles. Now this one is a 270 that I thought we'd worked with before, but Steve says no, he's never shown it to me before, right?
That's correct.
Did you do a lot of work on this one?
Not anything with the action or the barrel or anything, just the stock.
Just refinish the stock?
Yeah, just refinish the stock.
Well,
I did some rebluing, but the stock was the primary thing, just getting it
I tell
fixed and cleaned up.
You do beautiful stock work, Steve.
Thank you.
I mean, I might have to hire you to do some of my old beaters.
It's fun.
Hey, but what we want to do today, guys, is show you how to set up your rifle and your load. Steve has been hand loading, and he's got what he thinks is the ideal load. It's grouping really well. I need to show them some of these groups, Steve. These are fantastic. So if you guys can see some of these tight little groups he's getting here consistently, one after another. And this is an early target. He told me when he was still experimenting with different powder charges, and that's even a decent group with a lot of rifles, but this little cluster right here with two different powders are just right in there, so he's really found a happy load. And it's mounting to 59 grains of H4831 shortcut.
That's
right?
Correct.
And he wants to find the velocity. Before you can build your trajectory tables and know how much drop you're getting out there, you've got to know your velocity. So we've got the little Garmin here. We are going to get some accurate numbers on this baby. It's a new session. We're going to continue. Maximum session count reached. Well, we're going to continue and just erase that if needed. It's a rifle. It's going lots of speed in there. We're going to skip that part. Yes, indeed. Here we go, Steve. You know, between you and me, we're almost one brain.
You know that... I'm not going to comment on that. I know you're supplying the larger portion of that than I am. So
let's get this flap down and out of our way, shall we? Okay, so he's got his load, and it's supposed to, according to the book, be going around 3,000 feet per second. We are going to see if we can't confirm that. Are we looking at a 22-inch barrel on this thing?
It's 24.
It is a 24. Doesn't look it. Now, one thing you want to notice here, folks, is we actually have iron sights on this. Well, we used to. Took the rear side off and scoped it. Did it come like that?
Yeah, when I bought it, it had the dovetail in there. So
this
scope, I put this scope on. This was an old scope.
Looks like a good one.
So, yeah, it works.
Guys, you do not have to remove that rear sight if you put a scope on. Guys think it's going to get in the way. You don't even see it. Yeah. It's just the way the optics work. So close you can't even see it. Doesn't interfere. So, okay. I'm going to turn on this big camera here so we can see the target get missed. I mean hit. Even on a cold day, I get heat shimmer.
You know, Ron, with these targets,
yeah.
One of the issues I had when I was testing my loads was that black.
Can't see it?
Well, as soon as we got later in the day, and the sun coming in, it's like solar panel, and it was just all of a sudden the whole thing looked
shimmering.
Like a shimmy, shimmy, bop, bop. You know.
Good point. Good point. So guys, watch out for heat shimmer because it can mess up your view. I mean, you think you're looking at, it's a mirage essentially. The target's not where you think it is.
That's true.
Yeah. All right, let's fire away.
Okay.
Well, that wasn't much of a flinch. What are you trying to do? Prove me wrong? Hey, you're up 2 inches and a little bit more than a ½ inch to the right. Okay,
and that's about where it should be. You know, it's 2 inches high, and I haven't adjusted the windage for it yet.
Look at your speed.
385, good.
3,085 feet per second. Yep. You got to do 2 more to get an average. You're all right with that? 2 shots more?
Yeah.
And you'll get an average, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
I would just tell our viewers, 3 shots can give you an average. It's not perfect. You really ought to have at least 10 shots. So if you're doing a lot of range work with one load, keep recording those shots to try to find your average. It's not a big deal for hunting ranges, say out to 400 yards. The subtle differences between 3,000 feet per second and 3,080 feet per second on your drops. Those don't really add up until you get beyond 400 yards.
And I'm not shooting that far, so.
Yeah, if you're doing like we usually do,
I can't see that far.
Worry about my lips flapping here. That pretty much goes on all the time. Yeah, about half to quarter inch away. You're probably going to end up with a 3/4 inch group on this one.
Okay.
That one's just a ½ inch to the right and a 1/4 inch lower. And a ½ inch lower. What'd you get in velocity that time? 30.68, okay? Yeah, you got about an inch group. MOA group, and your velocity now is 30.88. So
that's fairly consistent.
Yeah, let's look at your consistency here. Your average is 30.80.5.
Okay.
Your extreme spread was 20 feet per second. Your standard deviation, 8.9. Standard deviation doesn't really count when there's only 3 shots, but your extreme spread, 20.2, that means you're consistently loading your cartridges close to one another so that you're not varying your velocities all that much. As again, if we go with 10 shots, you might open that up to 30, or you might keep it even under. But that's pretty darn good for a hunting load anyway. Target shooters would never stand for that, but they like to get under 10, under 5 if they can. But again, that adds up at extreme ranges, not at what we're doing for our whitetail hunting. This is what you're going to take for our whitetail hunt?
That's correct.
Okay. Steve and I are journeying to the wilds of western South Dakota for a whitetail hunt. It's going to be very near where I used to hunt when I was a young pup back in the early 70s.
That's a while ago.
It's a while ago. You're lucky I can't even remember. So now we're going to go up the ballistic calculator and use these velocity readings to build out the trajectory table. Then we're going to come back out and test those at real distances. So if the table says we're going to drop 3.5 inches at 300 yards or something, we're going to see if that actually happens. And then we will make some adjustments to the BC of the bullet, because that can change. You know, based on what is happening with your rifle, your ballistic coefficient isn't exactly the same. So we'll balance all that stuff out, and then we'll build an accurate drop chart. So when you're taking that 517.3 yard shot in South Dakota, you can miss cleanly.
I don't have that many fingers. I can't count that high.
All right, we'll be right back, folks.
Okay, you know, Ron, the whole issue here with this group size is that has me a little bit concerned, is I'm fighting the trigger. And, you know, as I'm on the gun, you know, all of a sudden I can start my heart rate. I can feel it. It's more influencing the position of the rifle, my breath. I'm holding my breath longer, you know, and then you force the shot. And that's just not the way it should be. So I don't like fighting with the trigger. I think the trigger should be something that I don't even have to think about, let alone have to concentrate on the trigger instead of the target. So I'm going to have to do some work on that.
Well, for a hunting rifle, I wouldn't complain too much about that group.
I know.
How old is that rifle? When was it made?
1952.
52?
Yeah.
Gosh, it's older than I am. It's almost as old as you are.
Almost. Not quite, but almost.
Hey guys, a little treat here. Steve was going to let me shoot some. He's got some other loads up, worked up here with some hammer bullets that he's probably not going to hunt with this time. He's going to use the TSX, is it?
That's
Tip
correct.
Trickle Shock?
Yes.
TTSX. So he's going to let me shoot these guys to see what the trigger's like. He's complaining about the trigger. You saw what a horrible group he shot. My God, got to have some kind of an excuse, right? Steve, it's getting cold out here. Oh, I can see through your scope and everything. All right. Got a new session going here, so I'm going to do the old scope trick. Steve, I'm going to aim at that lower left corner, right in the center of that diamond. Now, Steve says he doesn't much like this trigger, so let's find out. Yeah. Straight up. Maybe a 1/4 inch to the right. So that's keeping, that was 3,107 feet per second.
Okay.
Can't tell for sure where that one landed. 3,108.4. I'll just shoot 3 here. You might want to keep these. If I shoot a 1-hole group, you'll have to change your mind. Yeah, those last 2 jumped over it. Oh man, almost 2 inches to the right from the first one. 3108.9. Man, that was a consistent load, Steve. 3107, 3108, 3108. Extreme spread 1.8 feet per second. That's incredible, Steve. Standard deviation 0.8. That is some consistent hand loading, my friend.
Yep.
You did well.
Thanks.
My group, though, didn't do well. Doggone it. 2 of them jumped off to the right. Why do that happen? Now, I don't think your trigger's all that bad, but it was something weird about it. It didn't seem to drag, and it didn't seem all that hard when it broke. But for some reason,
Something's not right, though.
I don't know what it is.
Compared to because I took out my other ones and dry fired them next to this, and there is a big difference between my other triggers and this one, and I can't tell you. I can't
figure out what it is.
I don't have enough experience with it to know. It's inconsistent.
A little bit mushy that felt that time, but it's not really that hard. It isn't. It doesn't feel heavy, and it doesn't seem to have a lot of over travel.
Well, I can tell you in a hunting scenario, Ron, it's not going to matter. It's just that it's aggravating when you're trying to do everything right, so you have full knowledge, full range of knowledge and information on what you're doing, so you make the right decisions.
Yep.
And anyway.
Huh. Well, I'm sure disappointed in that cluster I shot.
You want to shoot a couple more or not?
Yeah, that first shot is apart from the other 2, and I was shooting it over a different bullet. You shot the TSX, the TTSX, different mix of copper alloy stuff.
Yep.
That's just theory. Let's try it. Well, I'm not going to be too much worried about recording that thing. I won't even start a new session. We don't want to ruin that fine cluster group we got there. The information there is too sweet. Not seeing it. I don't know, it might have jumped over to the first hole. Let's go out there and look at him, do some measurement. There you are, folks. Steve has a nice little 1-inch group up on top. I went down here and shot a miserable group. Actually, I shot 2 groups, two-shot groups. No. The last 3 shots, the 2 were off to the right, and then the last one jumped way over there to the left and hit the red. I don't know what's going on with that. What's your theory, Steve?
Well, the only thing that that I'm suspicious of is interchanging bullet types. Even though they're both copper monolithic bullets, the alloys are different.
Yeah.
And I'm just suspicious that one doesn't like the other, or vice versa. And that's the only explanation I have, because this is not typical of what happened when I was building the loads.
Yeah,
I didn't have that happen at all.
Good as that group is, you're expecting better. That right hole of yours, you would like that thing to be over there with the other 2. That's what you were getting before. But you switched bullets from. Yes, you didn't clean between, right?
That's correct. I did not clean the barrel between.
So why don't we clean your barrel and see if you got enough load to do again? Shoot another group or not?
I've got 2 left, is all.
Oh, okay, well.
But
let's just go hunting.
Okay. It's time for that. I've been waiting and waiting. I'm ready to go. Yeah, let's go.
All right. Okay, well, Before we do that, of course, we're going to get those ballistic charts printed out for Steve, and then we're going to come out here and shoot 300 yards and 400 yards and see if it is dropping the way it's supposed to. All right, Steve, we're going to use shooter's calculator to determine what you want to know about your ballistic trajectory. You want to go for point blank range?
Yes, I do.
All right, point blank range. Drag function, we're going to stick with G1. Ballistics coefficient, what is a bullet?
0.404.
404. Initial velocity was
3080.
80. And sight height, you're about 1.5 inches above your bore. It's not real critical. Target size, what do you want to go?
6.
6-inch target. That's a good choice. You don't want to go too small. You don't want to go too big. Now, we could correct for atmosphere. It's not going to make a huge difference inside of a 400-yard shot. So,
what about altitude?
Altitude will make a difference after about 4,000 feet. So I think a smart thing to do with altitude is to get kind of an average. We're at around, what, 3,000 to 7,000 feet in this part of the world?
Yep.
Generally where you hunt.
Yep.
So I think if you pick, say, 5,000 or
5,000.
4,500.
5,000 is perfect for me.
5,000 feet. And your temperature you usually hunt at?
40 degrees.
Yeah. Could be 30, could be 20. That doesn't make a huge difference either. Again, inside of 400 yards. Pressure, you can never predict what's going on there. That's kind of a standard. Relative humidity right in the middle. Again, that doesn't make much difference until you're way out there, like 1,000 yards. Calculating your point blank range. Invalid altitude. Oh, they don't like commas here. They like things to be just straight numbers. There it is. 258 yards is where you want to zero. You're near zero for guys who have to don't have the range.
Right.
This will tell them. You know, you can zero dead on at 27 yards, and you're going to be good at 250 yards, and you're going to be good for your maximum point blank range out to 303 yards. Steve, you are rocking it.
That's
so
awesome.
But you need to zero your 100 yards. You were only 1.5 inches high. You need to move it up an inch. You need to be 2.5 inches high. So we'll do that before we test.
Sounds
Great.
good.
Got that. So 258, remember that. 258 yards where we want to zero it. So 2.52 high. If we're 2.5 inches high, we're good for 258. Now we're going to go to our trajectory calculator. This is where you get your numbers. Again, your ballistic coefficient was 404.
Correct.
And your bullet weight was?
140.
140. You were going?
3080.
3080. Your zero range was 258.
That's correct.
Sight height, that means how high above your bore is your crosshair, and that's usually 1.5 to 1.75. It's not a huge difference if you don't get it exactly right. We could put in a shooting angle out where we are. We've got about a 7-degree uphill angle there on our target range. Again, not a biggie. Wind speed, this is the standard. 10 mile an hour right angle wind. 10, 90. And you can calculate from there. I don't think you need a 1,000-yard chart. 600 is farther than you're probably ever going to shoot.
Yeah.
Step size. You can set it for 50 yards, 20, 10, all that.
Let's do 25, Ron.
25?
Yep.
All right. Now, what do we have here?
We still need an altitude if you want to do that.
Atmosphere for this one. And this one we picked 5,000.
Correct.
Pretty close. And we said we were about 40 degrees.
That's correct.
Leave the rest of it. Now, over here on chart column customization, we don't have to have all of it. They do it in inches, your elevation in inches, that's your drops. Your drops in minutes of angle, your drops in mil radians. You're not working with mil radians, are you?
No.
Let's just get that off the chart. Windage, same thing, mil radians, we're not using it. You might want to use MOA someday, it's always nice to know anyhow. Time of flight, you really need to know. Out to 400 yards, you're inside, under a third of a second anyway. It just makes it easier to remember. Now, the energy on target, I don't think you really need to know, but it's kind of fun to see.
It's fun to see. The bigger issue with the bullets that we're shooting, I've got to have a velocity of roughly 2,000 feet per second.
Okay, so we'll keep that velocity in
there.
there.
In order for the bullet to perform at its maximum efficiency.
Great. All right, so now we're going to create the graph. So there's a graphic which doesn't do much for me, and I'll give you a general idea, but I prefer the numbers, and there they are. So you're going to be 2.5 high at 100 yards. You are going to be almost dead on at 250. It's really 258. So by 275, you're already dropping 3/4 of an inch from your 258. Things start dropping pretty quickly once
Really
you get out
quickly,
there.
yeah.
But look at this, you're not even 3 inches low at 300 yards. So your maximum point blank range, as I said, was going to be 303 yards. You can pretty much figure out anything you see out there inside of 300 yards, dead
just
on
hold
hold.
dead on. Yeah.
Nice.
That's the information that's the most valuable to me.
And you said your velocity, you needed to remain above 2,000?
That's correct.
You can go out to 550 yards. Okay. 2,047 feet per second, that bullet is still flying. You're still carrying 1,300 foot-pounds of energy. Oh my gosh. You could go elk hunting easily out to 500 yards if you were a good enough shot and you wanted to take a long shot at them. You've got energy still up over 1,400. You're still 2,131.
Yeah, that's good information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff to have. So what I'll do is I'll make you a little chart of this guy and print it out for you. About like so. Bingo. Now that'll be on my page here as a screenshot. It should be right there. 140 grains, 3,080 feet per second, 404, 7 degree, blah, blah, blah. There's your 100 yards, 2.5 high. 300 yards, you're minus 2.6, essentially 2.5 low at 300. That is a flat shooter. So we can print this whole thing off for you. Now, ideally, you would have this small enough to keep either in a laminated card in your pocket,
right?
Or you could even make a little tiny sticker to put on your scope.
Gotcha.
I often will make one to tape to my barrel, but if I got a beautiful piece of wood like you got, I don't know that I want to be taping stuff to it. I'll do it with synthetic stocks. So how small you want me to make that?
Well, let's just start with like 50%.
50?
Yeah, then that's going to make it easier for us to manage in the field, and then I'll figure out what to do with the information after that.
50 might be a bit small. Let's try 75%. We can always do another one, 50, if we don't like this. All right, now let's go out and confirm that stuff. We're going to shoot and see if we actually drop that far. How many rounds have you got left?
2. I can load some more.
We better go load some more too then.
I brought everything to load. So
all right, great. We're going to load a few folks and then we're going to go out. Oh, you about ready to shoot your best groups ever?
In my whole life, at least in the last 5 minutes anyway.
So what we did was make our chart, as you saw, and then we decided to clean the barrel. Been about 25 rounds you figure you'd put through it.
Yep.
With mixed ammunition. So we just thought we'd clean her down to bare steel, which we did quite nicely. It was amazing what the difference was in that barrel when we looked at it through the bore scope. It was so clean that I thought something was wrong with the bore scope. It was just perfect.
Yeah, he kept saying it's all fogged up, it's all fogged up. Then all of a sudden you realize that it was just that clean.
There was no carbon fouling, there was no copper fouling. At first there was a lot of copper in there. So we cleaned it out, so now we're shooting fresh. So we're going to do a couple of fouling shots.
Yep.
Did you change your...
No, I haven't touched it.
Why don't you want to just shoot, or you want to move it up an inch?
We can do it. Let's go.
We were going to move up an MOA because you were that low before.
And we wanted to move over a little bit, right?
This is an old scope, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, 4 clicks.
Did we need to go left at all?
Yeah, it seemed like it was, what, a half inch, almost an inch? Maybe 3/4? Should we give her 3 clicks?
Yep.
Three clicks. Now, good old fashioned. I don't know, I'm just left.
Yep, that's the way I was
from the old days.
That's the way I was taught too.
Shouldn't have to do that.
Of course, I looked at one of those old scopes the other day. It's an old Weaver K4.
Oh my!
And I couldn't even see the crosshairs. I was looking at it, going like, "What happened to the crosshairs?" And Marky goes, "Oh, they're right there." Okay.
Old scope, old eyes, not so good.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Wow, even farther to the right. 2.5 right. Okay, that was straight up 3 inches, and you're only a half inch, or maybe 3/4 of an inch to the right. that was 1 3/4 inch high. That's up touching your second shot. I think you went the same hole on that one.
Yeah, it looks like it.
That last hole.
Yep, it looks like it.
Ready. All right, Steve's ready to shoot at 300 yards. You guys will be happy to know that I drove the Ranger all the way out there to put the target up. Steve was impressed. Can you see a hole? I think it's down there at 3 inch, right on the edge of the red. Maybe a 1/2 to 3/4 inches to the right. But I cannot swear to it.
Yeah, let's try another one.
Why don't you give her one more so we've got a good average out there. Yeah, I see that one on the left edge, almost the same as the first one, only on the left side of the diamond. So they're both down there at about 2.5 to 3 inches low, just what it's predicted.
One more.
Woo! I think that's good, bud.
Do you?
Yeah, I think you're right there. It's hard to see on this. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. 1, 2. I think it's too low. That's crazy. You might even have a higher BC slightly on that bullet. But that's sweet. It's predicted you were going to drop about 3 inches. Not quite. 2 3/4, right?
That's correct.
That's about exactly what it's doing. Wow, that's sweet. Now, you want to try for 4?
Yeah, we can.
I'm not going to go all the way up the hill for my 400-yard target. It's a steel gong. I'll try real hard to record where you hit with the camera.
Where is it?
It's way up on the hill. It's hard to find in this light. Let's do this. Guys, I'm going to turn the camera off because this is going to take us a while to get all set up here. But thus far, the trajectory table is predicting reality. This is right where it's shooting. All right, we're recording some. Okay, Steve is set up on our 400-yard target uphill. He's supposed to drop, what is it telling you you're going to drop? 13 inches, 13.2 inches. Steve, camera is rolling. Launch it. Right over the top of it. So lower your expectations a smidgen. I would aim crosshairs right at the top of the target.
Okay.
Lay them right on the top edge of the target.
Okay.
You got it?
Crosshairs on top of the round disc.
I think that would do it.
You tell me when you're ready.
Ready, fire away. Perfect. You hit in the lower third.
Okay.
Which is what it predicted. That's a 14-inch plate. You dropped 13, you held at the top edge of it, bingo.
Good. I could actually hear it.
Yeah.
I could hear the impact.
Pink, and I could see it, so we recorded it, so there we go. So you've confirmed. Now, if you want to, you can confirm at 500, but we're going to have to do some work to put a target out.
That's okay. I'm good enough. I'm not going to shoot that far anyway.
You know, the last time I shot a deer in South Dakota, I think it about stepped on me first.
I'm all in favor of that. Sign me up for that one. Put in my reservation ahead of time.
Are you going to be doing more long range, 300 to 400 yard practice shooting before we go?
Probably. I can only go out to 300.
Well, you come up here anytime you want.
Right.
It's only half a day's trip. I think we've kind of proven our point. Guys, if you're setting up for this kind of work, this is sort of standard stuff, really, but I think the mistake that so many of us made throughout our young hunting lives is we'd zero at 100, maybe 2 inches high or 1.5 inches or whatever the local friends of ours said you should do, kind of a thing. I don't ever remember going out to 400 yards or 300 yards and testing my drops.
I didn't have a way to measure that far.
Yeah, that was.
Honestly, I had a property that I could shoot on, but it was over sagebrush, and you're going, no direct line of sight, so you're just kind of.
Yep, I hear you. But that's what's nice about all the tools we have now. The laser rangefinders, so you know exactly where you are. No, you are set up for, I think, a beautiful maximum point blank range shoots your deer thing.
I would agree with you.
And the beauty of this is he doesn't have to worry about whether that deer is 10 yards away or 300 yards away. His bullet is going to be within a 6-inch target.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So it's now if you think, well, that deer looks pretty darn far, I better take a rangefinder and I'll go, ooh, he's at 350. Now what's my drop going to be? According to your chart, which should be accurate,
7 inches.
7 inches, so you just need high shoulder.
Right.
And then if he's 400, you just hold a little daylight over his shoulder. You're dropping at 13 inches while you're a few inches over his shoulder on an 18-inch deer's chest. You're going to drop it right into the heart.
Yep.
And that's what Betsy did right here one year. She didn't have quite this flat of a trajectory. I think she was shooting at 260, but it was at 378 yards or something like that. I said, just holding the top of his back line, she dropped it right into his heart.
Can't ask for better than that. That woman can shoot, though.
Yeah.
That woman can shoot.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. It seemed like a pretty ordinary thing, but a lot of us really never get around to doing it. And I just thought I'd show you how we do it. Nothing super special about it. The only thing special here is Steve and his woodwork.
Yeah, I love the gun, and I just absolutely love the gun. I try really hard not to fall in love with these things, and it doesn't work very well.
And I told you at the start of this Mr. Model 70.
Yep.
They ought to put you on the poster. The old fudge rifle, Model 70 Winchester.
That's it.
Talk to Steve. He'll tell you what you need to know.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have any questions about this stuff, don't hesitate to let me know. Drop me a line here, and we'll try to explain it to you a little bit better, but that's the way it works. Good luck this hunting season. Hunt honest, shoot straight. Hope you get a big one.